Doing it.
On hiphopcrashbeats.com.
So we're just waiting on a few more students to join us before we get started with our conversation.
Hip Hop Crash Beats, together we make the hits.
Are y'all doing all right? Our panelists?
Good.
Good.
Hip Hop Crash Beats. Hit us up on hiphopcrashbeats.com.
We're gonna get started in just a few minutes. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started with our transition talk for today. Good afternoon and welcome to Transition Talks. Before we dive into the conversation, I want to introduce myself. Then we'll go over what this session is going to be about. I'm going to introduce our panel of student leaders, or rather have them introduce themselves. We're going to go over some quick housekeeping items, and then we're going to jump into the conversation. So to start off, my name is Kenyatta Corley. I am a coordinator in the Office of Transition Programs, and I also advise the Seahawk Link program. The Seahawk Links are peer mentors who assist incoming first-year students in their transition into college life. They host events, attend University 101 classes that help students make their transition into college life. And they also will hold one-on-one meetings with students to help them navigate any issues that might arise as the students embark on their college journey. So for today, we're going to be talking about navigating relationships, as you can see on your screen. College is a time where new and old relationships are put to the test, whether it's hometown friends, meeting college friends, or parental advice differing from your mentors. So this transition talk episode is intended to help you begin to process how you will navigate your existing relationships and your new relationships once you arrive at UNCW. Before we hop into the conversation, I'm going to introduce or have our student leaders introduce themselves. We're going to start with Kyle.
Hey, I'm Kyle. I'm a senior from Raleigh, North Carolina, finance major with a stats minor, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
All right. Thank you for being here, Kyle. It's
Thank
good
you.
to have you. Next, we'll have Lauren.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm from High Point, North Carolina. I'm a senior majoring in adapted special education with a minor in applied behavioral analysis, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Thanks for being here, Lauren. Let's hear from James.
Hi, I'm James from Garner, North Carolina. I'm a sophomore. I'm a psychology major and a social work minor, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
And then last but certainly not least, we're gonna have Gabby.
Hey all, my name is Gabby. I'm a senior from Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm majoring in exercise science with minors in biology and psychology, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here today. As you can see, we have a variety of students from differing classifications, all the way from sophomore to senior. So hopefully we get some really good perspectives today from them. But before we get into our questions, like I said, we're gonna go over some housekeeping items. So the first thing that we're gonna talk about is, number one, if you look down at the bottom of your screen, you should see a button that says Q&A. We wanna use that function so you can send in questions for our panelists that I will read out loud and have them answer live. Just make sure that you have your mic muted when you're not speaking, and to limit your distractions so you can focus on the conversation and really engage in what we're talking about, because we really want to get some good questions from you today. The next thing is I'm going to go over our Seahawk Respect Compact. So in the pursuit of excellence, UNCW Wilmington actively fosters and encourages and promotes inclusiveness, mutual respect, acceptance, and open-mindedness among students, faculty, staff, and the broader community. We affirm the dignity of all persons. We promote the right of every person to participate in the free exchange of thoughts and opinions within a climate of civility and mutual respect. We strive for openness and mutual understanding to learn from differences in people, ideas, and opinions. We foster an environment of respect for each individual, even where differences exist, by eliminating prejudice and discrimination through education and interaction with others. Therefore, we expect members of the campus community to honor these principles as fundamental to our ongoing efforts to increase access and inclusion in a community that nurtures learning and growth for all. This starts now, and it'll continue throughout your experience as the Seahawk. So now that we've got all of that out of the way, let's get into some questions, shall we? The first question I want to ask our panel, we're going to ask these planned questions to ask our current student leaders. They're going to share their experiences. Remember to use the Q&A function to ask questions, and our staff will either respond to you directly or I'll ask the panel to answer live. So the first question I want to ask is I'm going to ask it to all four of you, actually. So when you decided to come to UNCW, did you know any other students that will be coming here too? If so, how many and how close to them were you? I'm gonna start with James.
Okay. So before coming to UNCW, I knew about 6 people from my high school who were coming here with me, but I wasn't really close with any of them. But that didn't really worry me that much. But once I got here, I connected with one of my kind of friends from high school who also went here. So now we're pretty good friends.
What about you, Lauren?
When I decided to come to UNCW, there was one other person from my high school who came, but we weren't really friends. And so when I came, I kind of just went out on my own and made new friends.
Gabby, I want to hear from you. What about you? Did you know any other students that would be coming here?
I knew about 3 people coming here from my high school, but I also didn't really care to keep in touch with them. Um, I just kind of wanted to do my own thing, make my own new friends, my own new experience. So, I mean, we give each other like the nod, like, hey, what's up? Like when we see each other, but that's about it.
And what about you, Kyle?
First thing you should know is I came in as a transfer. So second semester of my sophomore year is when I transferred to UNCW. Actually, I had like 3 close friends that were already at UNCW when I came over. So when I came, I wanted to be like around them as often as I could so they can give me an understanding of the campus and everything. And when you come in as a transfer, it's a little more difficult because people already have all these friend groups and you're just trying to like get more involved with them. So my friends were really helpful though with keeping me in the box basically.
What do you mean by in the box?
They kept me around so that way I could branch out a little more before just sending me off to meet random people in the cold winter.
Awesome. Um, the next question I want to ask is, did you ever worry about growing apart from the friends that you had back at home? And if you didn't, how did you go about maintaining these relationships with your friends back home? Lauren, can you kick us off with that question?
Yeah. So when I came to UNCW, I was pretty worried about losing a lot of my friends from home because I've been friends with them since I was really little. And so when I got here, I didn't really know how that was going to work out. But we used a lot of social media. We would text each other. We would call each other. Um, for breaks, we would come home and hang out. For my friends who were still in high school when I came home, they were really excited. So we worked it out.
Gabby, did you worry about growing apart from your friends that you had back home once you got to UNCW?
I did for a little bit, but then I started making new friends here, and um, I'm not really the type of person who has the desire to be in constant contact with my friends anyways. So my friends back home kind of knew to expect, like, you're not going to hear from me every single day, but we still text like maybe once a month, and we keep up on social media and stuff. But I wasn't really worried about it per se. But the ones that I did maintain, it was just like, it's an active effort to reach out to them, to see them whenever you can, because I didn't really go back home that much freshman year. So
And you say you got, you acquired some friends once you got to UNCW. Do you mind sharing the ways that you got in touch with the campus community so that you could make those friends and make those connections?
yeah, my RA had a hall meeting the very first night that we moved in, and we were all sitting there. We made our community standards together, and that was kind of funny. The things that we were putting on the list that we expected of each other, like don't leave your hair in the shower and stuff. But then we also went to Welcome Week events together. But I have to say the most useful way that I met friends immediately was my RA told me to leave my door open, and just as people walked by, they would stop in and say, hey. And I was like, that's not going to work. That only works in movies. And within 20 minutes, these 2 girls on my hall came in and invited me and my roommate to lunch, and we became friends. So
Are you still friends with those girls?
I am, yes. We have a lot of classes together. It's nice.
James, I don't think we've heard from you. Did you worry about growing apart from your friends back home?
I did worry a little bit about growing apart for them, but like Lauren said, we used social media a lot and FaceTime to keep connected and just keep up with each other, so that when we got back home, it wasn't like awkward or anything like that. And but like Gabby said, you make new friends here at school, so you don't really worry too much about what's going on back home as often as you think you would.
So I guess the follow-up question to this one is like, I kind of started asking this question to y'all, but I kind of want to get an expansion on it. So once you got on campus, how long did it take you to connect with another student that you would even consider calling a friend after you met them? Let me give you a second to think about it. And we're going to start with Gabby.
It took me about 2 days. That seems kind of fast, but the person who ended up becoming my best friend, she asked me if I wanted to go to a welcome week event with her, and she just started talking to me, and I at the time was very introverted, so I was just listening to her, like taking in her whole story, and I was like, oh my god, this girl is crazy. And then I ended up loving her, and we spent so much time together, and we're roommates and best friends now.
That's awesome. Lauren, what about you? How long did it take you to connect with another student?
I would say within the first couple weeks that we moved into campus, there were a lot of people on my hall, and we kind of made a big group pretty quickly. But then second semester, I would say, is when I made my first like real friend who I still like talk to and keep up with now.
So it took you to like the second semester.
Yeah.
James, what about you?
For me personally, I met some of my closest friends now at orientation. So before the school year even started, but that might be a little bit different now because of the whole pandemic going on. So I also met a lot of my friends in the dorm. That first meeting that Gabby was mentioning, everybody's gonna have the RA meeting, and you just meet different people in your dorms, and you keep your door open. And yeah, people want to make friends just as much as you do, so they're just as eager to talk as you are.
Which residence hall did you stay in?
I stayed in Keystone last year.
Keystone. Okay, so a part of Tri House.
Correct.
Kyle, you're a transfer on the panel. How long did it take you to connect with another student besides the ones that you knew when you got here?
Like I said, it's a little more difficult when you transfer in, especially in the spring. And I was even living off campus, which didn't help too much. But I mainly looked at classes as a way to meet people. And like Lauren, it wasn't until second semester where I really met someone who I was really close with, became a close friend. He's even my roommate now. And in the second semester, we were very similar. We ended up doing all these things together, even a study abroad in Australia we did together. And now we're we're renting a house for next year. So we're getting ready. And it took until second semester to find that person though.
Gabby, you said you also met your friends in your residence hall. Which hall did you stay in?
I was in Innovation House.
Okay. So. And Lauren, do you mind sharing which residence hall you stayed in?
Yeah, I was in Galloway.
Galloway. Okay. So before I jump into my next question, I do want to remind our viewers that if you have any questions whatsoever that you would like our panel to answer, look down at the bottom of your screen and there is a Q&A function that you can use. You enter your questions there, and either our staff will answer the questions or they'll send them to me to answer live. So we actually have a question that was submitted by one of our viewers. And the question is, did you find it difficult to make friends at UNCW? Lauren, we're going to start with you. Did you find it difficult to make friends?
When I first came to UNCW, I was very introverted. Like Gabby said, she kept her door open. Yeah, I didn't want to do that. So one of the girls who lived across from me, we became friends pretty quickly. And she was the one who really like opened me up. We went a lot of places together. And that's how I met a lot of my friends. So go get involved, and it works.
And what did you get involved in?
The Welcome Week activities really helped a lot. The Involvement Carnival, I don't know if we're still going to do that, but if we do, that's a great way to get involved. There's a lot of clubs that come out, and it's a great way to meet people and try new things.
James, did you find it difficult to make friends?
Um, maybe for a few days, but then I realized, like I said, everyone's just as eager to want to make friends as you are. So you just gotta just go out there and make friends, and it's not like it sounds hard, but it's not as hard as it seems. Everybody's super friendly and they just want to make friends, just like you do.
And how did you go about doing that? Did you just do, something similar to Lauren, or did you end up just being friends with friends of friends, or what process did you go through?
Yeah. So we had a beach blast, and I met a few of my friends there. A lot of my friends from the residence hall were like we were living together, taking showers in the same bathroom, so we obviously connected there, and just also like in the dining hall, like if you see someone, I mean, who's like not sitting with someone, you can go up there and be like, hey, like, can I sit here, eat with you? And then also, the first year uni class, like you'll make a lot of friends in there because you're gonna be with them and you're learning about campus with them, and so that's always a nice group of friends there too.
Yeah, I saw a lot of heads bob when you mentioned uni. That is actually a really great way to get to meet people. Speaking of uni, were any of you in living and learning communities?
I was technically in a living learning community. I was in the honors college and they make everybody live together, but it's not like a learning community that you like apply to live in. They just place you there. But I lived in Innovation House with like half of the honors people, and the other half was in Honors House, which is now Keystone.
Okay. Do you mind sharing us just a little bit of your experience in that community?
I loved it. Like, I absolutely loved it. I wish I could go back to freshman year just so I could re-experience all those things. Um, Learning communities are great because not only are you living with them, but you're usually in the same classes. So that's why I nodded my head when James mentioned uni, is because everybody in my hall was also in my class. So it gave us extra time to like goof around, but also show off like we're here to do business. Like, we all know that we're here for school. That's our first priority. But like, it's nice to have friends while you're doing it too.
Thanks for sharing that. I know, there's a lot of students who are coming in who are going to be a part of those communities, and they want to know like what their experience might be like. So I appreciate you for sharing that with us. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about parents. Um, when you first came to UNCW, how often did your parents think or say, if at all, that they wanted to hear from you? And how often did you actually speak with your parents, if you could think back to your first year? Um, we're going to start with James.
Okay. So before I left, I expected it to be, every other day, like just checking up on me, but in reality, it wasn't. Like it started off pretty frequent, but after that, it was kind of like maybe once every 2 weeks, kind of if I called or like they didn't call, so like I didn't call, kind of thing. So, but I mean, we text every once in a while and just make sure that we're both doing okay, but it's not too constant. Kind of give me my space and my freedom now.
Gabby, how often did you talk to your parents when you first came? Did they say, I need to hear from you every other day, or, anything like that?
We didn't really set a frequency or like a day of the week that we were supposed to call or anything, but my dad, freshman year to this day, calls me at least 3 times a day. He calls me in the morning, at lunch, and right before he goes to bed, and he also texts me in between that. And my mom, she was a little bit more relaxed. We just text every day, and she'll call me every couple of days. I will admit though, if I go too long without actually like talking to her on the phone, she'll call me and she'll be like, why don't you care about me? Like, I haven't heard from you in a week and stuff. So I talk to them pretty frequently still as a senior.
Kyle, what about you?
I have a pretty strong relationship with my parents. but I'm also terrible when it comes to being on my phone and calling or texting. So they kind of knew what was going to happen. They were like, it's not going to be like my older sister where she calls my mom every day, but I mean, I still ended up calling them once or twice a week, I'd say, at least. So I was a little surprised with how often I ended up calling them, but it was always nice to have them to talk to.
And Lauren, how often did you talk to your parents, or did they say, we need to hear from you at least once a week, or we're going to come up there and try to find you?
We never really set a schedule, but I definitely when I first moved in, those first that first week, maybe my mom, I think she called me every single day just to check in and make sure I was okay. And then after that, we just I would text her when I needed something or when I thought of something, or she would call me with updates on what was going on at home. So I never really said anything, but it was kind of just like a check-in kind of deal.
Do any of you have any advice for our new students with, maintaining communication with their parents? Maybe actually sitting down and having a conversation about, okay, if I don't call you by Wednesday, then it's okay to call me, or anything like that. Do any of you have any advice for parental kind of communication?
Um, I mean, I would just say it's easy to text, but a call can mean a lot more to your parents. So try to call them and catch them up on everything, especially their first semester. They want to know everything you're going through and know how the experience is. Remind them about when they went to college. So just keep them informed to try to call them as often as you can.
And it it'd mean a lot to them actually, if you call them, because you might be like, oh yes, I'm so happy to be out the house. I'm out of here, but they're over here at home still and they miss you, so they'll be happy to get a call from you every once in a while.
I would say also, if you can, make sure you send them a schedule of all of your classes, your extracurriculars. If you set aside study time, make sure that they have that so they know when they can call you.
Gabby, did you have anything to add that hadn't been said?
No, I did the schedule thing. My parents didn't really follow, they didn't look at it really. So they would call me in class and I would start just declining their calls, and then they would get mad. So that's when the initiative of calling your parents first really helps, because in the middle of class or a presentation or anything. I will say though, I'd like to add, there were periods when I would get really homesick and I would be the one to attack my parents' phone with calls. I would call my mom just to describe the sandwich that I ate for lunch, just because I was so homesick at some points. So that might happen.
And did that help you a lot, kind of navigate that homesickness and kind of get over it?
Yes, I think it was hard because I have never been that far away from home from my parents before, which is only 2 hours. So that's not even that big of a deal. But just knowing that they were still there for me and supporting me and interested in what I was doing made me feel a lot better.
You never know what your parents will do after you call them anyway. Because I mean, when I was back at my first semester of college, I got super homesick. So I called my mom. I talked to her for the longest time. And then a week later, she sent me a little box of little gift bags from home. So you never know. They can cheer you up. Don't be afraid to call them.
Yeah. Did any of the rest of you ever get any of those care packages like what Kyle's talking about?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely snacks, because sometimes you don't want to go to the dining hall, so you just have food in the dorm. And also, if you're lucky, they'll send you money. So make sure you keep in contact with your parents, because that helps too.
I got a care package with a bunch of snacks. Of course, it was healthy snacks, because my parents were like, I'm sure that you're eating junk food all the time now that you have no rules. So they sent me a bunch of healthy snacks and useful things for around my dorm. So they sent me more command strips. They sent me an extra blanket. I think a extra surge protector or something like that. So it was nice to not only get the lovey-dovey snacks and notes, but also practical things.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and how did you go ahead, Lauren, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Something my family has always like kept up with is cards like on the holidays, and so it was nice like just to get like a little card with like a note or something in it.
And how did you receive those things? I know some of our incoming students are wondering, how do I get my care package from my parents, or where do I get my card? Lauren, since you were last to speak, can you kind of share that information?
Yeah, so all incoming first year students will get a PO box by the post office, and when you get like a card or a package, they'll send you an email to your like UNCW account, and you just go over there, um, give them your one card, and they'll scan it, and you can pick up your package.
Thanks for sharing that. Um, I do want to remind everyone that we are still taking questions in, so you can use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to send in your questions. I have another question about parents. So when you finally went back home for a break, did your relationships change with your friends or your parents? James, you want to kick us off?
I would say that they didn't change too much, even though we might have like not talked as much as we did while I was at school. Once we got back home, it was kind of just a okay, we're back now. Let's get back to normal, and we just kicked it off where we left, and so that was good. And all, with my parents, definitely not. Everything stayed the same with my relationship with them and all my other family, so that was good.
What about you, Kyle?
With my parents, it was basically the same, maybe a little more mature when I got back, I think. But with my friends, um, it didn't change with those I was close with, but those who I didn't really talk to too much once I left and went off to college, the occasional text. When we met up, it was more just catching up with what I would say it was like a long term, like a relative out of state, is what it felt like.
Hmm.
Um, but other than that, it didn't really change too much.
You say your relationship was more mature with your parents. Can you describe like what you mean by that?
Just like the conversations we had, and we had more to talk about, and they wanted to hear more about what I'm doing on my own, the responsibility I'm taking now, um, everything I've just been doing, what I've been joining, including Teal Bridge. They want to know everything about that. So,
And
yeah.
what is Tilbridge?
Teal Bridge, it's it's a mentor program for transfer students. I'm a part of it, and there will be, I think, 6 others of us. And yeah, we can just be there to help guide you on your transition if you're a transfer student, and be a first friend if you want it.
Um, Gabby, how was your relationship with your parents when you first went home for that first break after being away?
Um, it was a little weird because in some ways they were trying to baby me because they missed me. I'm the oldest, so um, I was the first child to go to college. They never experienced that before, so they were just really happy to have me back and were like, "Oh, do you want to go to dinner here? Like, do you want to do this?" Like, just basically whatever I wanted. But also, they were a little bit more. I don't want to say strict because that's not the word that I'm looking for, but in high school they were very much like you can do it. You're like supportive, extra super supportive, kind of like in a baby way. But now it's more like you can do it, get it together. Like I know you're capable, and it's more like they're talking to me as an adult instead of just like their child or a teenager.
So they're putting some of that responsibility of taking the initiative on you. It's like if you don't do it, it's on you.
Yeah, like maybe in high school, if I got like a bad grade on something, they'd be like, "Oh, it's okay. Try again next time." And now it's like, "We're paying for this. Like, you need to do well in this class."
Oh, what about you, Lauren?
I would say definitely when I came home for the first time, I had a lot more freedom than I used to in high school. When I was in high school, I was expected to be home by midnight, and um, I was also really independent in high school though. So it was nice to like go to school and come back and finally like get that freedom that I had like wanted. and that I had been used to.
Did any of the other of you have any changes in maybe curfew or, your ability to have people over? Gabby, you're nodding your head, so.
I wasn't allowed to, like, I had to ask my parents before I had any friends over, and there were absolutely no boys allowed, like, past the living room. Um, and my curfew was always 11 p.m. except for on Friday nights after football games. I could come home as late as I wanted. But then when I came home from college, my parents were like, you don't need a curfew. Like, you're an adult. You don't have a curfew at school, so why should you here? Um, and like, I could have any friends over whenever I wanted. So my parents were really generous with that.
James, did you have any experience with any kind of changes in times or your ability to have anybody over?
Well, in high school, like there wasn't really an established rule, but you just kind of you can tell like, okay, I shouldn't be out right now. You know what I'm saying? You gotta like come back home. But so there wasn't really a established rule. But as far as like having friends and stuff over, no, not really. But obviously, like Gabby said, like just it's just common sense. Like don't have a girl over. You know what I'm saying? Because that's kind of like disrespect the household. You know. So so not really.
Lauren, what about you?
Yeah, definitely like along with the like curfew changes. When I was in high school, it was tell me where you're going when you get there, like let me know like when you get to school in the morning, when you leave school, like when you go to practice, when you're done with practice, where are you going after practice? Like it was always like update, update, update. But now like I'll go to work and then I'll like just text my mom and be like, hey, like I'm going here, and she's like, okay. And like I just come home when I feel like it. Um, so there's definitely like more responsibility on my part to just like take care of myself, and like there's a lot more trust on me, that like I have more responsibility and I kind of am figuring it out and getting to know like what to do.
And I think I'm going to jump to the next question just so I can make sure that we have time. Um, Kyle, I want to ask you, once you got back home, um, was there any kind of shift in your friend relationships back home?
Well, like I said before, with those that I only texted like a couple times, maybe once a month, it became like just catching up with them. Like I said, with the long-term relative, long-distance relative, that's what it felt like for them. With those I was close with, um, I could tell like some of them were changing. I noticed that with a few of them, but for the most part, they are all the same. People I knew in high school, and it was just trying to catch up, doing everything we used to do. Just this time, we weren't doing it every day.
Gabby, what about you? I know you said you're not necessarily the constant contact kind of person, but once you got back home and you have the opportunity to see your friends face to face, was there any change in your relationship?
With some of them, yes. Well, with all of them, yes. Some of them, it was just like we were more excited to see each other, but we just picked up at the same place that we'd always left off. And for some of my friends, I realized that we were only friends because we had to be. Like we were together 5 days a week from 7:30 to 2:15. So, why not? It was just a thing about proximity. But when we actually hung out once we got back on break, it was kind of awkward and we didn't really have anything in common anymore. And there's no hard feelings or anything, but we just kind of let the friendship go.
James, what about you?
I would say it didn't change too much, but definitely a little bit. Like I would say, we didn't have too much to talk about as we used to back in high school because we were around the same friend groups and around the same people, so we had more to connect on. But it wasn't like a drastic change where, oh, this is awkward. I like, maybe I should just leave now. It wasn't it wasn't too bad.
We actually just got a question in, and I kind of want to see, what answer you're going to give here. It says that there's a parent that has some concerns about safety. What are some things that they can talk to about with their parent to help them feel better about them leaving, about them coming to UNCW.
Like safety on campus.
Yeah.
So like there's one of those um emergency buttons like everywhere on campus. Like where I think they said wherever you stand on campus you could see one. So you should so you feel pretty safe on campus and everybody's looking out for everybody there. It's a great community on campus and you find friends that you can I mean be with all the time so you're never alone. So I think it's pretty safe on campus.
Yeah, on campus I felt safe whenever I was alone. But and even if I didn't feel safe at one point, like I would ride my bike everywhere. So I made sure I had lights on my bike if that's something that you're worried about at night. Like my first semester, I had to go across college road to get to my off-campus apartment. So I made sure that I felt safe enough there, and I would text my friends whenever I got home. So just keeping people in the loop, making sure you're not just on your own too often, and making sure somebody knows where you are, I'd say.
Yeah, going off of that, something that I did that really helped me, was I picked a couple like close friends and we all shared our location with each other. And so like if I had a class last semester actually that got out at like 8 o'clock at night. And so I would just text them and be like, hey, class got out, like I'm walking home. Um, so that like they knew where I was and like I lived with them. So when I got home, like they knew I was home.
I had a lot of late nights at the library. I mean, I would leave at like 2 a.m. And it's obviously dark, but the blue boxes, the emergency boxes definitely made me feel more safe on campus. And also there's usually one or two security guards on like golf carts driving around and patrolling at a certain point at night, like once it gets dark. And then there's also security guards who walk on foot around the residence halls and make sure that everything is okay. Occasionally they'll come into the residence halls and talk to the desk receptionist or anybody who's in the lobby and just be like, how's your night going? Are you okay? I'm actually really close with one of the police officers on campus because he came into my building so much that we developed a relationship, and I'll be like, hi, like, how are you doing? But one thing that really made my parents feel safe was UNCW releases their annual safety report every year, and you can see sorry, there's a bug in my face. All the crimes that have happened on UNCW's campus within the past year, and we have a relatively like low crime rate. I think that UNCW is pretty unique in that way. But also pepper spray, carry that too if you need to feel extra safe or FaceTime somebody. I also share my location with my friends and my parents.
Yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned having the officers there because UNCW does actually have a full-time dedicated police department. They have all the rights and privileges of any other officer. They're not just glorified security guards, as some folks would like to call them. They actually are certified through the state. And, you know, a lot of our officers also work in other departments in Wrightsville Beach or New Hanover County or even with Wilmington Police Department. So we have an actual full-time police department and they're available as well. And you all might not know this, but I do. The UNCW just actually this semester or this year, we're going to be pulling up the Live Safe app. I don't know if you all have heard about that. Lauren, you've heard about it? So it has a function on it that will allow you to share your location with your parents. And it approximates how long it should take for you to get from one point to another. And if you don't check in or mark yourself as safe in the app, then it'll send a notification to whoever you have named as your contact person to let them know that you didn't check in, so they know to call you and check on you. So that's something that I believe might have been in your orientation modules as well. So you may want to go ahead and download that app. Go ahead, Gabby.
That made me think. I also have this app called Moonlight, and it's pretty similar to that, except for I use it when I'm in Ubers or I'm walking and it's dark. You hold the button on your phone on the screen, and if you let go for longer than 5 seconds, it automatically calls the police, sends them your location, and it calls your emergency contacts that you set. So that's very useful. If you accidentally let go of the button, you just put in your passcode and everything's all good. They'll cancel the police call and let everybody know that you're okay. But that's a pretty convenient tool to use too.
All really great tips.
Yeah, I even have my locations shared with my parents too, if that makes them feel better.
Yeah.
As well as close friends that are on campus with me. But
And so I kind of want to switch gears a little bit. So we've talked about friends, we've talked about parents, but let's talk about roommates for a second. Did any of you have really good relationships with your roommates your first semester that you wouldn't mind sharing with us?
well, I can tell you I've had about every roommate situation you can have.
Well, share.
Like going back to my old institution too, now I have the best friend. I have the person you got to know and that you're close with. I've had the random one who you just never saw. I had the random one who you didn't get along with. I had the dirty one. So I had it all. But my first semester at UNCW is when I had someone who was just random. And I mean, he was a good person. We didn't hang out at all really, but it was someone who I can talk to when I got home. And it becomes easy to become friends with your roommate. The biggest thing though is set boundaries, I think, when it comes to cleaning, because especially if you're rooming with close friends, yeah, they're your friends, but you're living with them now, and you might find out they're dirty compared to how you would like it. So just be honest with them. You're living with them, so be honest.
Gabby, you had quite the reaction when I said roommates.
I'm sorry, my freshman year roommate was not ideal. I'm just going to be honest, and
Go ahead.
don't let that scare you guys, because I will tell you that like everybody else in my hall loved their roommates. It was just me. We just weren't each other's cup of tea. And I mean, we weren't disrespectful to each other or anything, but we didn't want to hang out. She had her boyfriend over a lot, who she met within like the first 2 weeks of school. And he would stay over more than he was supposed to. He would make a loophole and have boys from the hall checking in so he could stay overnight, even though it wasn't a weekend. And so I actually had to report her to my RA. And we had to redo our roommate agreement and just set some boundaries. Like, hey, when I come back from class at 3, I don't want to see your boyfriend. Like, I need a couple moments alone in my room or with you, but I just need it to be my space for a few and not have people over all the time.
And what were some of the things that you put in your roommate contract, if you can remember?
I think it was we're only allowed to have overnight guests on the weekend, which is a UNCW policy. But if we wanted to have somebody on a weeknight, we just had to check with each other, and you were responsible for cleaning anything that they made cleaning before. We have a lot of hair. So we would try to clean every Sunday and make sure we clean out the mini fridge too, because it can get kind of stinky if you keep a lot of leftovers in there for too long.
James, you mind sharing your roommate experience with us, and maybe also even, anything that was in your roommate contract that you think would be helpful for the students who are viewing to kind of think about before they get to UNCW?
Okay. So I had kind of a weird situation for freshman year. My roommate lived in Wilmington. So I'd say we slept in the same room probably like 5 times the whole year. Like he always slept at his house. So, I mean, we had an agreement, but for no reason, basically, because he was never there. And I saw him probably 20 times the whole year. And but I mean, he was cool. He was a cool guy. We got along well, and like a few things in our roommates agreement were like don't play music too loud where I can't concentrate, and I mean, no, well, don't do anything weird at night when I'm trying to sleep with your significant other. You know, like just be respectful of each other and respect our space, and we'll be good to go.
What about you, Lauren? Any advice for students dealing with roommates, or anything in your contract that you want to share?
Yeah, like Kyle, I've kind of had a lot of different roommate situations. But I think definitely one of the most important things that comes to having a roommate is communication. Um, Definitely, like Gabby said, set those boundaries. Um, but also, like, if something comes up and like it's starting to bother you, like talk about it then. Because if you don't talk about it, it's going to build and build and build, and then it's going to blow up, and that's not fun for anybody. So definitely, like, communication is key. um, and also, if like you have something in your roommate contract, like one of the things in my roommate contract was like, if you have people coming over, like, just let me know. Because my roommate was in a sorority, and so like her sisters would come over all the time, which was fine, like they were great. But like Gabby said, sometimes you just want your own space. So I tried to talk to her about it a few times, and it didn't really work out. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go talk to my RA. And so he came in, and kind of like mediated a conversation between us, and that worked out pretty well.
That reminds me, we had a 48-hour rule. If you didn't talk about something that bothered you within 48 hours, it must not have bothered you that much. So after that, you like, don't bring it up.
Yes. Some people have 48-hour rules and some people have 24-hour rules. So if
I
it's
just
going to be
want
a
I
hot
have to
topic,
say, oh, sorry.
go ahead, Kyle.
I just want to say, Gabby and Lauren, they both mentioned the going to their RA for help.
Hmm.
I lived with my RA. He was my best friend too. So since back at home, so I know that they're there to help you, and they're not going to be afraid to. If you have anything to ask them, they're there. That's what they're there for. And there might be a couple RAs who just are there for the free room and board, but most of them are there to help. And if the one you have is not willing to help you, you can go to any other RA and they will help you. They're there for you. So don't be afraid to ask them anything.
That's great advice. I'm glad you said that. Because a lot of our students might think that the RAs are just there to get them in trouble. But that's not what they're there for. They're there to help. Um, so, trying to see if we got any additional questions in. Here's one. So we got a question in. It says, do any of you have any mentors on campus, and how did you connect with them? James, we'll start with you.
So of course, my one of mine is there's a Seahawk link in your uni class, and they're there for anything like you need. Like you have any question about campus, any question about anything, basically, they'll do their best to help you find out the answer to that. And they're so nice. They're like friends to you, like right when you get on campus, and they're older than you, obviously, and they know more. So they like literally anything you need, you ask them, and then boom, they got the answer for you. So definitely your Seahawk link in your uni class, and then also your RA, like Kyle said, they're there for you, like just to help you navigate through anything, whether it's in the dorm or outside. Like they're always there to help you.
Lauren, did you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, so freshman year, I got really lucky, and my RA was also my Seahawk link. Um, and he was awesome. He was great. We're actually like still friends now. I talk to him, like I Snapchat him every day. Um, but yeah, definitely like your Seahawk link is going to help you in your uni class. That's what we're here for. I'm a Seahawk link. So that's what we're here for. And like really anything. Like I've done like like I've had some students come and talk to me and be like, I'm homesick, like what are some ways I can like get over that? Or like my like roommate, or like what is good at Dubs, like what's something good to eat, or like where, like what restaurant can I go to, um like anything you could ever ask, I got you.
Um, Gabby, I think also Gabby is, well, I know because I advise them, but Gabby is also a Seahawk Link. So, and then, Lauren last year was a part of the leadership team of the Seahawk Link. So she's continuing on. So these two might be your Seahawk Link. Could be. Go Links. But we actually got another question. And so I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Again, do you have any advice for living off campus with a roommate? Go
Uh,
ahead, Kyle.
that's at me. um, if we're talking about a random roommate, um, all I can say is no, you might not get along with them. You might not have anything in common, but like I said, just make sure in your living space, they're doing something you are okay with. Don't, if they're doing something you really don't want them to do, just let them know. Be honest with them. Be upfront with them. If you're living with somebody that you do know, it's basically the same thing. But it's not difficult to become friends with those random roommates as long as you just like keep talking to them, just get involved with them. As a transfer, me and my roommate, he was also a transfer. So we just did stuff together as often as we could, just try to get involved. And then sooner or later, we branched out and found new friends. And that's how it worked. But he was always there to talk to when I got home. So
Was there any kind of contracting that you guys did amongst yourselves? I know there's not RAs off campus, but was there any conversations that you had with your roommate, in those beginning stages to kind of curtail some of the things that might happen later?
uh, off campus, I kind of got lucky, I think. We didn't sign anything. We just verbally agreed not to be terrible. But I mean, like for example, I was back home for a weekend, and he had a friend over, and they ended up breaking our blinds in our common room. And I was away, and I got an email saying you're being charged to $70, and I'm like, I'm not even there. So I got back, and I was like, I got an email. And he goes, oh yeah, I'll talk to them. I'll make sure you don't get charged anything, and we're gonna make sure it's all fine. So I mean, they're usually not terrible people. I mean, I don't think odds are you're not going to get that unlucky, but if you do, just be honest with them. Talk to the people in the front desk, see if there's any contract you can do. They're willing to help you, but overall, just be upfront with them.
You got to communicate. At the end of the day, it's important to communicate no matter what. Because some people claim to be mind readers, but most of us are not. But we are winding down on our time for today. So I want to thank each of you, our panelists, for joining us today. And I want to thank those that joined us and sent in questions for also joining us and sending in questions and sharing their thoughts. This session has been recorded and it will be uploaded to our office Facebook and our YouTube account. And so if you want to go back and watch it again later, or if were really interested and you want, your parents to maybe hear what the other students or who have already been through this or had the advice that they gave, go ahead and make sure that you share that with them. It'll be uploaded later. And we hope that you'll join us for our next week's episode in this series where we're going to do a campus tour with our orientation leaders, a virtual campus tour. Please be sure to remember to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Transition Programs, UNCW Transition Programs, but also follow the Seahawk Links. And for our transfers, go ahead and follow Teal Bridge so you can be up on all that's going on with those organizations. Thanks for joining us. Really enjoyed having this conversation. And so we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.